back to the Los Alamitos Unified School District Board meeting for August 16th. And we will open, sorry, I had to turn the page. We are going to go ahead and come back into open session. There was no action taken in closed session. And I have asked Myra if she would be so kind to lead us in the pledge.
Have everyone rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Everyone can please place their right hand over their heart. Ready and begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Myra. I would ask us all if we would remain standing. We are going to have a moment of silence for a senior that we lost this week, Madeline Metzger. Thank you. Thank you very much. We will now move into the summary of the workshop that we had at 4 o'clock today. And Dr. Pulver.
Thank you, Madam President. It's hard to follow that moment of silence.
It's
definitely difficult, obviously, for the family, for our LoSal family as well, to lose one of our seniors. So, but thankful for just the community, who I'm sure has continued to find ways to reach out to the family, at the same time respecting their privacy. During our workshop, we had the extreme pleasure on a more joyful occasion of introducing about 7 of our new administrators. Not all of them are new. Some of them are just in a few different roles, but from elementary to secondary to high school AP, and then to a director of food services and our preschool coordinator. So it was a wonderful opportunity to get to know them a little bit, as well as for them to introduce their families, because it's a proud moment for families to see their loved one take on this new role. So, and that was it. That happened at our workshop.
Thank you very much, Dr. Pulver. And now we will move on to the board president's report. And I really wanted to talk about the partnerships that we have with our community. Over the summer, there was many parents who reached out talking about safety. What did our partnerships look like with our local police departments and our the sheriff's department in Rossmore? And I thought it'd be a really good opportunity just to highlight many of the community partnerships that we have. And so, of course, we want to highlight the Los Alamitos Education Foundation. They are just an incredible partner for us. They do our summer enrichment programs as well as our enrichment after school programs. They do summer camps through the at the high school with all of our coaches and really give students an awesome opportunity. They, for a very long time, have supported STEM and supported a huge STEM fair that we used to have. And then as of late, they've really taken up the charge of really supporting mental health and giving us donations that supported the wellness centers, as well as has supported extra services and counseling for mental health. Did I get most of it, Dr. Pulver? Okay, thank you. And then I want to talk a little bit about the City of Los Alamitos Police Department, and they've been very good partners to us as well. Many of our campuses are in their jurisdiction, and they really watch out for us. I know that we're very excited because we look like that there may be an opportunity to have an SRO back at our high school, and it has been from, I believe, a year before the pandemic hit that we haven't had an SRO there, and that's just an incredible presence on our campus, as well as it's a great opportunity for our students to really understand and get to know law enforcement and trust it, and so on and so forth. I also got a chance to, and we have an amazing new chief right now, and I had an opportunity at National Night Out to talk to everybody a little bit, and I just wanted to share because it was just too cute. So they are sharing they are selling these beautiful little doggies, and they're selling them through their foundation. And what they're looking at trying to do is to raise enough money to have a canine unit in their police department as well. So this is a great way to be able to support them. And then also they are having, you could also purchase, I did a lot of purchasing. You could purchase a pink police, what do you call this? Patch, thank you, for their first annual Los Alamitos Police Department Pink Patch Project. So they're really doing some great stuff over there, and they're amazing partners, and the city's an amazing partner. We have a working group with them as well, and are just really appreciative of all that they do. And then Seal Beach, City of Seal Beach, and as well as their police department, the city has always been really great partners. I remember Los Alamitos as well, but we used, when this building was being built, we used their chamber for a while, and it was really nice to be down in Seal Beach and get a better feel for that community. They've been really wonderful partners with us, and the police department as well. You'll notice at McGaw, there tends to be a police presence at that school quite often, and we just work in great partnership with them. And so I'm very thankful. And then there's a Rossmore Community Service District, and they, I think they really supported the walk to school that we had last year. They also do some great stuff like the Rossmore Festival. I was at last weekend, and that was very fun. And then Shakespeare in the Park gives our students an opportunity to go hear some Shakespeare. And so we appreciate that relationship. The director has been there quite some time, and really always is engaging with our superintendent and making sure that we're really aligned on things as well. We also have the Rossmore Homeowners Association. To those of you who may not know, they're two different bodies, and it gets a little confusing, but they are a very warm and amazing group who really wants to partner with the school district, and had honored a lot of our teachers, all of our teachers at our elementary schools in Rossmore last year, and are just very gracious in what they do and how they interact with our district as well. Whew. As you can see, we have a lot of partnerships, and I think community partnerships are very, very important today in these days and age, and it's really the connecting of the two. And then, of course, our PTAs, friends of groups, booster parents. We'll get to donations a little later in our agenda, and a lot of those donations aren't even represented by what these families do, and just really supportive of everything they do. And a quick word, one of the big things that the high school boosters do is they support an event called Taste for LaSalle, and that's coming up October 8th. Mark your calendar, buy your tickets from a parent booster group at our high school. And then last but certainly not least is the Chamber of Commerce and our business community. And when we look at how many things our business community is asked for in our community, whether it is fundraising nights at restaurants, or whether it's donations for silent auction items, or whether it's like the shops at Rossmore allowing us to do Taste for LaSalle there. There's such a synergy between our business community and our school district. And so I just wanted to point out some of those and just say how appreciative I am to be in a community like this that has those kinds of partnerships. So that is it for me. Thank you, Dr. Pulver. That means that Dr. Pulver is next.
Thank you, Madam President. You know, when you talk about partnerships, it's only just really scratching the surface, obviously. But we are so fortunate to live, work in a community where our students go to school. who just really embraces the youth and really goes above and beyond to find ways to enhance programs and services to make opportunities and doors open for kids. And so we're very fortunate for that. Tonight, I have the pleasure to really just talk about welcoming the start of a new school year. I don't think there is a more joyful time for us in education than the start of a new year. And I think we're so fortunate to be in a profession that really gets to yield a fresh start. And how often would any of us as adults or as kids want to have a fresh start? And to be able to work in a profession that we get to start that off each and every single year is just simply unique and something that we cherish. You might notice too, just in terms of like the fresh start, we've been talking a lot in the past few years about our theme being better together. And we don't ever abandon our themes. I think they really become ingrained in the fabric of our culture and who we are. But it's time for us to take a look at now what. And so as we move forward, our theme really is, how do we stay forward focused? There's a lot that has happened these past few years that all of us have had to respond to. And while we can't bury our head in the sand and ignore it, there's some great lessons that we've learned along the way. There's some wisdom and nuggets that I'm sure that we'll pick up. But really our opportunity now is now what? We need to stay focused forward for our students, forward focused for our families, and really forward focused for our staff and how we can provide these supports and help them move forward as we're not stagnant and we have to keep moving to the needs of our students and adapt along the way. So we're taking direction there to kind of set our eyes and really be forward focused, but we're going to continue to do it together in that. When we talk about the start of the new school year, it was so fun to be able to, even before the first day of school, which was yesterday for most of our schools, and Weaver's was August 3rd, but even just the kickoff prior, and you could just start to really feel the synergy and the excitement from our parents and from our school sides. Many of our school sides had popsicle parties or kinder play dates at parks before school started, which got an opportunity for kinder families and students to come together. Our middle schools had, they would call it different things, but a launch whether it was the Lion Pride or with food trucks and kids could come pick up their schedules. And the high school had a new parent, 9th grade parent night. And it was great to be able to be a part of it because going to them, I would talk to so many parents who said, this feels like a different year. I'm so happy to see, many of them commented how excited they were to see so many people re-engaged and reconnected physically before the school starts, but also just feeling a new sense of excitement. And I heard that from a lot of staff. Wow, this seems like it's been one of the most seamless openings. Everything has just really been smooth. And so I attribute that obviously to the hard work of our administrators who work all summer long or much of the summer to really make that. But I think all of our attitudes as we continue to look forward and focus on what that will bring. So I'll let the video speak for itself.
I feel like new sunglasses, like a brand new pair of jeans. I feel like taking chances. I feel a lot like 17. I feel like windows roll down new city streets and cabs. I feel like anything can happen, laughing. You take me right back from we were kids. Never thought I'd feel like this. Like when I close my eyes and don't even care if anyone sees me dance. Like I can fly and don't even think it touches the ground. Like a heartbeat skip, like an open page, like a one-way trip on an aeroplane. It's the way that I feel when I'm with you. Brand new.
Such a great video of our first day of school at all of our sites between August 3rd and yesterday. Our communications officer, Miss Nicole Pichardo, did a great job and tells a great story. As you see, she starts the story off at the school bus, dropping kids off at the school, and ends with the bus picking them up and taking them home. A lot of those photos were because Nicole and I had been around at all the school sites. A lot of our principals sent in. And this year, we also encouraged our families to send us pictures. So on our Facebook, you'll see a ton of pictures of our families with the hashtag #WeAreLosAlUSD, which will probably be a hashtag we'll keep using throughout the year. So bravo to Nicole for getting that video out to our families by 4:30 p.m. on the first day of school. And so there'll be a longer rendition, I'm sure, on the wrap-up. The wrap-up is returning this week as we're coming back, and so we're excited about that. But really, it just was a wonderful opportunity. It was so neat to talk with many of our parents and our students at the high school. Were thrilled to be able to go into the STEM building. You saw the grand staircase. For some of the students, I guess they were elevating themselves based upon the number of classes that they had in the STEM building. I have 2 classes. I have 3. I have 1. And so pretty exciting. I was, when I went to the high school before school started to see our band, our marching band, which is just a wonderful program. We're playing out in the right as you walk up. Our ASB kids were handing out free donuts to students as they walked up. Or in the senior parking lot, our cheerleaders and ASB kids were there as well. So just really making it a joyful moment to welcome our families and our LoSal family back to a great new year. So speaking of the STEM building, we are having a community open house. This has been a daunting project. We could not do it without the support of this community who passed Measure G to make this all possible. So it's a 3-story, multi-story STEM building, science and math. 30 math and science classrooms, CTE, robotics, manufacturing classroom. Our AP computer class and our coding class is also in a large computer lab in there. That's really a classroom, along with our health office, our counselors, our psychologists, administration buildings, attendance. And we really tried to make it easy for our parents. Now, rather than having to go to different parts of the campus, they can just come to the main building for attendance, for health office, for records, and make that. So next Wednesday evening, the community open house is 6:15 to 7:30. It'll probably go a little bit later than 7:30, depending upon how many community members are there. And we are just proud to be able to showcase this and let our community really see what's been going on and what a difference that this building will make for all of our students. And so the ground floor, we prioritized for our students to be in on day 1. The ground floor is still not fully, we haven't been able to move in yet, but there's still plenty for the community to be able to see. And we just didn't want to wait any longer. And so we would encourage anybody from our community to come out next Wednesday evening from 6:15 to 7:30 at Los Alamitos High School. And thank you to the community for making that possible. And that concludes my report.
Thank you very much, Dr. Pulver. And now we will move on to our board communication. And Mrs. Catulli, we'll start with you.
Okay. Thank you, President Hill. I kind of want to tag on to what Dr. Pulver said and wish everyone a very happy new year. I still feel that we should have a balloon drop, maybe at 9 o'clock on the first day of school when everybody's in the class, because it is truly a celebration. And as a kid growing up, that was way more of a new year than that thing that happened after the holidays or at the end of the holidays. So welcome everyone to the new year and our new school year. I also want to start off by sending out a great big thank you to CJ Nolan, his entire staff, and then the crews that have of our architect and our construction and our management team getting that building so it can be occupied. And we will finish it. But the entire time we were planning on it, I thought that was a real tight timeline. And to do it during COVID when you couldn't get anything you ordered, it's really kudos to you and to everyone who worked on that team for making it actually happen.
I also I was able to preview the STEM building before it was actually open to the public for the kids coming in. And I took a couple of pictures, and the comments that I got back after I posted them, the one that warmed my heart, or sad and actually kind of warmed my heart because it meant we were doing a good job, is my granddaughter who graduated from LaSalle last year said, "Why didn't I get to go there?" And I went, and just think about it. And your brothers will go there and they'll probably have a new gym too. So,
Bring her to the open house on next Wednesday.
she's in Idaho in college, so she's not going to come. She has a better offer, so that's where she's going to be. So that was fabulous. And one thing we always do in LaSalle right before the start of school is that we have a new employee lunch. And one of the activities that they do during the new employee lunch, and I don't know if other school districts do it, I really don't think they do, is that we take everybody on a bus ride and we go to all of the different sites, because in education, whether you're a certificated or classified employee, you tend to be at one site and you don't see the others. And if you're a new employee, it's nice to be able to see everyone's site. I didn't go on the bus this year, but I always appreciate the time and effort that our superintendent and then all the principals come out and say hello. And it's really welcoming. And those employees were just so excited to get to work in LaSalle, and we're happy to have them. And I also want to make a comment on the workshop that we had today about all of our new administrators. I've always said that because of our size in LaSalle, we do lose some phenomenal people because they want to grow and take their craft further and do more that they can for kids, and we don't have opportunities for them. But this year we had what I refer to as 2 rebounds, where people who had left LaSalle to get another job and then have come back when we've had openings, and they were able to beat out all the competition and they were chosen. And we also had administrators who made shifts, and I think that helps them grow as leaders, grow as educators. So I'm really looking forward to the new administrators that we have, and then the new faces that always bring something new in. So that should be great. And then I'm actually going to give her a report on what happened in career technical ed at North Orange County Regional Occupation Program. It's a consortium of 5 school districts. 3 of them have started, 2 of them haven't. And so when you are a career technical ed teacher, there's a different credentialing system than for a regular classroom teacher. You don't get the support being a CTE teacher on how to actually teach as you do becoming a certificated teacher. So ROP has decided that they are going to fill in the gaps. So all of their new teachers for the 5 school districts, they had an 8-day, 6 hours per day in service on how to teach, how to be effective, how to welcome students, how to set the tone in your classroom. And as a former teacher in the classroom, that is so important. You have to start off not hiding in the corner, but being out there and saying, this is what we're going to do. Things like what information to put up on your bulletin boards and stuff, and different strategies. And once a child isn't getting it, what else can you do? How do you reframe the question? How do you check in to know that they're learning? And they have also tried to team them up with veteran teachers. And this is the first time they've done it in this depth. And I think what a support for our CTE teachers, so that not only will they feel like they are doing something that they really want to and inspiring kids, but they know that they can do it well. So I was just so impressed with that. And they also, ROP also had a summer school, and most of the classes were for our adult eds in the medical careers profession. But we also did some internships in our technical and medical pathways for high school students, where we had kids that were working in labs and working at UCI. That was really doing some incredible things. And they also had a class for high schoolers on body systems and disorders that evidently was really full. They had like 40 high school kids taking that. So I was impressed that 40 high school kids would spend their summer looking at disorders. Anyway, that's my report.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Catulli. Vice President Forham.
Right. I too got a tour of the STEM building prior to starting, and the good news is my 2 grandsons will get the benefit of that. And CJ, it's just awesome. Thank you. I attended the opening day at Lee School as Papa, not as a board member, but I got to take the boys and get them all settled into school. And today I helped Mrs. Vento serve kindergarten lunch for the first time today to those Ks. And if you don't think it's challenging to manage a tray of milk and all this and follow to a table, you've never seen anything quite so good. Shout out to the staff at LAHS and Oak and McAuliffe. I attended the registration for our incoming 6th graders and our incoming 9th graders, and I was totally in awe as to the organization and the welcome spirit that was there. And I got to listen to a future astronaut put on by News Enterprise in Rossmore for our families. I think we were all in awe about this delightful young lady who shared what it means to be STEM, how she tied it all together with what our kids are learning. And I attended the district kickoff with Flippin, and who really, from personally, who reinforced for me what I've always believed in practice, that building relationships with kids and staff makes learning happen. And I think we all left there knowing we have an awesome job ahead of us, but we're willing to take it on. And I usually finish with kids, but I'm going to finish with Nicole back there, because you have made on social media our everything shine. You've made our kids shine, you've made our staff shine, you've made our schools shine, and you've made our programs shine. So what a welcome addition to our school district. And that's my report.
Thank you very much. Mrs. Davidson.
So we haven't done board reports for a while, and in no way are we going to cover everything that's happened since we did. But there were a few things I wanted to highlight, and one of them was the meeting that we had with the police chief for Los Alamitos and council and the city manager and other representatives, because I've had a number of parents email me or stop me and say they feel a lot of concern for their children and safety. And I just want to reaffirm that in that meeting, they covered a lot of territory. We asked a lot of questions. There's concern about the Rossmore Elementary schools because they don't have their own police force. They're serviced by Orange County. And there was a lot of validation about the ability to be at one of those schools in a minute or two. So that kind of work is continuing. And to parents, I just plead with you to keep asking those questions and keep us on our toes, because we can't have any more, I wish we would have done something, or if I'd only said something. We all have to work together to keep our communities safe. And that involves not only the police department, but what we do at our schools. And today, I asked if I could go just stand outside that big, beautiful STEM building and watch the kids come out. They thought I was asking for a tour. And no, you know what? I taught for 25 years. The teachers would kill us if we were, trying to tour their rooms the day after school started. But I do want to say that the joy on the kids' faces to be back together, to not be on any special schedules or masked, was obvious, and they were so engaged in talking, walking with each other. But coming out of that building, what Dr. Pulver said, they were competing on who had more classes in there and talking about how, great it was, and you can sit in the hallway on cushions, and there was so much to it. And we did go in the computer lab, and the teacher there said he was concerned because the room was so gigantic. He thought it was just going to swallow them up, but he said, so CJ, the acoustics are amazing. The space provided allows them room to walk around, talk with each other, work in small groups, and not be on top of each other. And everything is so clean and beautiful, and the light shining through the windows is amazing. And then the other part of, you can't, when you walk into something like that, when you're provided these new opportunities, that is spirit lifting in itself. But a number of the classes, Mrs. Krause was sharing with me, that when she walked through yesterday and today, a number of the classes were not addressing curriculum. They were doing relationship and community building exercises in their classrooms, because we now understand the importance of making sure every child from the front row to the back in every corner feels connected and a part of things. So I'm very appreciative of all of that. The advanced lunch for our training for the administrators was a mirror image of what I saw today, this afternoon, when we welcomed our new administrators, many of them from within different jobs, is that LaSalle has high expectations of its employees. you really have to give your all, and it's not always easy, but you do it because you're part of a family, and nobody wants to leave this district. And in fact, Morgan and Nadia both came back because this is a place where we support one another, we get the training we need, and when things go badly for us personally and our families, I know in my own life, my daughter's illness, everybody steps up and embraces you and does what they can to help. So I saw this afternoon that same quality of family and love in each and every person who now, for the most part, has shifted to a different position. And then those that we welcomed as new employees had to sense in that room the kind of feeling that I sensed in that advanced administrative meeting, a sense of comradeship, collaboration, and energy for our kids. And so I couldn't be more proud. And lastly, I want to mention the, I better put my glasses on because I don't want to forget. So last week I wasn't able, because of a family health situation, to go see Alyssa Carson, the young astronaut, but she wrote a booklet about, my husband went, and he still hasn't stopped making me feel miserable for missing it. He thought it was she was amazing. You were amazing in talking about the STEM building, and Carrie Loge, the LAIF director, was a great MC, but she is what we want our kids to see. Someone who aspired to a dream as a young child and never let up and never let people deny her the possibility of her dream. And so she has a little booklet that she autographed for everybody, and I've got one for my grandson and my granddaughter. And I just think the more people we can draw to our community to share in moments like that, the better. And lastly, good luck, LaSalle football. They're traveling to Florida in a couple weeks and to play another team on ESPN. I told my nephew, asked him if he wanted me to travel with him, and he said, "No, Aunt Marlis, it's not that I don't want you, but really you'll have a better seat in front of the television." So I got the hint. Anyway, that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Davidson. There has been a lot that's been going on. We still have a lot of work goes on in the district during the summer. People don't understand that. And we had a budget workshop, always understanding what is going on with our budget. I had an opportunity to meet with some parents. That's always a really great opportunity for me, because it's really looking at the school district through the people's eyes that really matters. And those are our parents that are putting their kids in our schools. So I appreciate that. An amazing leadership, professional development. And I think, like Mrs. Davidson said, we didn't want to interrupt being part of the board, but we got a chance to sit in for a little bit and really experience that and feel what was in the room. And I talked to a couple of administrators at the new employee luncheon, and they just said how incredibly valuable it was for them. And I think we also had a lot of other management in that room as well. And so I think that really shows that we care about professional development at all levels of services and management and leadership in this community. I mean, in this school district, it's really important to foster leaders and leadership. And so, many years ago, somebody once told me, I asked them why they went to a particular conference, because they were very high up in their position. And he just looked at me and he said, because you never know what you're going to learn new. And if I take one thing away from it that I put into action, that means I've really upped my game. And I've never forgotten that, and always really tried to take that philosophy along with me. And I think that our team here certainly does that. The tour of the building, every time I think about it, I really get choked up. I've got to stop doing that because I've been in this district for almost 30 years, and I remember when my sons were getting ready to go to LaSalle High School, and it was about 21 years ago, and I was working with a group called Taste for LaSalle, and we really wanted to help build a new track and field at that point in time. And I went around to Booster Club meetings, and I would try to encourage them to be part of this group. And I said, you know, this is an amazing school, an amazing district, but some of our buildings really need some help. And to be able to see that our community has trusted in us, not once, but twice, to really be able to modernize and change our physical buildings and locations and sites is just, it means a great deal. And staff deserves all of the thanks for the incredible work they've done in keeping things on schedule. And thank you once again, CJ, and your whole team. I know there was a lot of overtime when we had that tour, and but it was really important that it be open for them the first day of school for so many reasons. So thank you for that. And then, like we were talking about partnerships, I had an opportunity to go to the Seal Beach Chamber breakfast, and the welcome back breakfast that we had was also tremendous, and just a really great speaker. I really connected with him on very many levels, and really felt the room was connecting as well, and very joyous when they walked out of there. So, the school year begins, and as Dr. Pulver said, it is a very exciting time. And the thing I really love is my husband does this thing in our community where he has an ice cream truck come in to a local park, and he invites everybody in the community to come and have a free ice cream the day before school starts. And so we're sitting there and talking to a bunch of the students eating ice cream and stuff, and they were all so excited. There wasn't one that said to me, "Oh no, I don't want summer to end." And they all wanted to be back in school, to be with their friends, and were really excited about knowing who their new teacher would be. And it is just a really wonderful time to cherish. And so I'm really grateful for that. And I'm also really grateful to Dr. Pulver and Executive Cabinet for coming up with the theme of forward focused. We're looking forward, we're looking bright, and the future looks really bright. So thank you very much for that. We're all going to have to wear shades. Good job, Mrs. Catuli. I love it.
So bright, I have to wear shades.
Oh, why not? So the next thing that we will, and thank you, board, for your board communication. And the next thing we will move into is public comment. And do we have any comment cards, Mrs. Dingelo? Thank you very much. Then we will move into our information and presentations. The first thing is a public hearing on instruction materials, code section 60119 requirements, and I will gavel out of this meeting. I will gavel into the public hearing. Are there any comments regarding materials and education code section 60119? Seeing none, I will gavel out of the public hearing, and I will gavel back into our school board meeting. Mrs. Reed, was there anything I was supposed to call on you? I was
No,
very
Madam
concerned
President.
about my gavel.
Your gaveling was perfect. There's actually another part in the agenda where I'll address Ed Code 60119.
Thank you very much. Then we are going to move forward to an overview of a revised policy regarding homework. Very timely presentation, I should say, since this is the second day of school. So Mrs. Reed, take it away.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Madam President. It is very timely. So it's a great week for us here at the district office because our hard work and partnership with our school sites kicks off. I know Weaver started a couple weeks ago, but the majority of our students returned to campus. And with that, I know that our parents are really engaged right now. As a parent myself, you know, we start the school year off and we're at 100% bandwidth and really ready for our kids to come back to the classroom. And so what a better time than to remind our community of some work that we did last school year that really will take effect and begin to impact the 22-23 school year. And for So with that, I'll be reviewing revised board policy 6154. And so just a little bit of background and a brief timeline of the work. Really pre-pandemic, we started having some internal conversations about homework load, rigor, student wellness, and then with the pandemic really heightened the discussions around student wellness, student load, along with a partnership that our secondary schools engaged in with a program called Challenge Success that partners with Stanford University that really helps school districts look at data about the amount of homework their students are doing, the mental wellness, how students are self-reporting on quantitative surveys, as well as some qualitative information that we took from all of our 6th through 12th graders. And so we really thought coming back this school year, it was really time to take a look at our board policy that dealt with homework. And so we really began this work last October. We spent few months, October to December, really internally as an administration team, really looking at a ton of research around student success, impact of homework, purposefulness of homework, really the efficacy of completing homework and its impact on student learning and engagement. And then coming back from the winter recess, we really rolled that out then to the site levels where our site administrators were able to begin discussions with teachers and staff members on campus. We set up a research website that Education Services launched that really housed all of the research articles that we had been exploring as an admin team, invited staff members to read those, to ask questions, to engage with each other and with their site admin teams, and then eventually come April, engage district-wide as a district community. And so Ed Services additionally held 3 open engagement opportunities for any staff member to ask questions, to provide feedback from their departments. And so just a big thank you to the teachers that did come out to that. We really took to heart all the feedback that was given and made sure that we found the right place in our policy to include that voice. Once the policy was in a draft form, we held yet another open forum for staff members to come forward and be able to, again, give specific feedback, critiques to the draft policy. And then in June, we brought the board policy forward for a first reading, and then the board did a second reading and approval at our July meeting. And so really our purpose here in August is to really make sure we're properly educating not only our staff, but our community on the change in board policy. And so tonight I'm really going to be reviewing highlights and the major changes to the policy, but the full policy is really easily accessible on our district website at www.losal.org. You'll see a tab bar at the top that says departments, and if you click on Education Services, it's one of the shortcut links right there on the right-hand side for you as a parent or community member to really read the full text of the board policy and administrative regulation that we'll be reviewing tonight. So really, as a school district, we work in 2 important documents, a board policy, and then it typically has a partnering administrative regulation. That board policy really is that. It's the big vision of the board and how it plans to interact and engage in communication about a topic. So in this case, instruction. And then the administrative regulation, that word regulation kind of gives you a clue. It really regulates and stipulates, I'd say, the details and the I can't even get out of my mouth. Yeah. How to operationalize, thank you. Man, that was hard tonight. How to operationalize the board policy. So really the details, the how-to part. So really the big vision that the board did approve in July is that the board believes that homework should be meaningful. It should be developmentally appropriate. It should be engaging, and really it should be relevant to classroom instruction. Homework should have a positive impact on student learning, and it's really defined as what is assigned for activities for students to do outside of classroom time. And so this really should be a time where students can complete these activities and work independently. And then really as a result, they're deepening those essential skills they need to understand course content. We as the school district and board also understand that as children and students grow older, the number, frequency, and the degree of the difficulty in those homework assignments is going to increase as the grade level and the maturity of our students increase as well. And so ultimately, the board policy promotes student wellness and academic rigor and really looks at a balance that to these ends, the board has stated that they do value quality over quantity, and that they recognize the distinction between load and rigor. So the load, the amount of time and quantity that a student's doing, over the rigor and depth that a student needs to learn a specific content or skill area. And so, as I alluded to earlier, these changes really are rooted in research. And so, although we looked at a ton of research, I'd say some of the most pivotal information and really takeaway ahas that we had really lied in a white paper that came from Molly Galloway from Lewis and Clark University, Jerusha Connor from Vanderbilt, and Denise Pope from Stanford. And it was non-academic effects of homework in privileged, high-performing high schools. And so it provided a lot of links and really ahas and connected the dots to a lot of similarities between our community here as well as the performance of our high school. And so the study really examined relations among homework, student well-being, and behavioral engagement. And so they looked at a sample of about 4,300 students from 10 high-performing high schools in upper middle-class communities. And the results really indicated that students averaged more than 3 hours of homework per night. And this really paralleled what we got from our challenge success surveys at the 6-12 level. So we saw that a large percentage, in particular at our high school level, students indicating 3.5, 4, and even upwards of 5 hours of homework a night. The research did show that students who did more hours of homework, they did experience greater behavioral engagement. So we weren't seeing behaviors in the classroom when they looked at suspensions, disenrollments, negative teacher comments. They were very low for those students who experienced a greater amount of homework. But those same students also indicated they were under more academic stress, experiencing physical health problems, and really overall, through a lot of the qualitative data, showed a lack of balance in students' life. And so really, to better understand the role of homework and how, the stressor that it paid in these students' lives, the authors explored really hundreds and thousands of qualitative descriptions that students have provided of their experience with homework. And so the discussion addressed how current homework practices in privileged high-performing schools sustain students' advantage in competitive climates, yet hinder learning, full engagement, and well-being. And so this information was really pivotal to us as we look to provide a balance when we look at homework time for students, at student wellness and academic rigor. So we're not eliminating homework. We're really following research to make sure that our students can still keep the competitive edge, are gaining all the knowledge from the courses that we offer at our high school, but at the same time, keeping student wellness, learning, and engagement at the forefront of our thinking. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about what this looks like at the different levels into our unified school district. And so we know students change, and their zone of proximal development also changes and grows with them. So it's not a one-size-fits-all package here in LaSalle. So at the elementary school level, when we look at nightly homework minutes, one of the big changes is that we're no longer going to be assigning a weekend homework. So assignments that are assigned on Friday and would take the remainder of the weekend to potentially, or any weekend time, to potentially complete. So it's really about following a 10-minute rule that was supported across multiple studies per grade level of undistracted homework time. So that would be occasional short homework or reading for pleasure at the kindergarten level. And then as you can see in the slide above, 10, 20, 30, 40, and then an average max of 0 to 50 minutes in that 5th grade school year. And so it is important to note that the research does show limited efficacy in the signing of homework at the K-6 level. So when we look at that effect size of the documents that we reviewed, it's really showing that it doesn't impact learning or progress mastery of standards by assigning a large amount, or really almost any homework that isn't based around key application and skills and nightly reading. And so we did in our administrative regulation kind of outline some guiding principles that really correlate with that research. So relate those primary grades, kindergarten through 3rd grade, that homework really should consist primarily of reading, and then limited independent exercise that reinforce skills that have been previously taught. So it truly is not new learning, but reinforcing successful learning skills that we are positive a student can do on their own independently and correctly in the areas of ELA and math. And then you can see as our upper elementary students in 4th to 5th grade, it also then kind of incorporates an emphasis on writing, as well as building independent study habits through that nightly homework. That doesn't mean at the kindergarten through 3rd grade level, there wouldn't be a writing assignment that a student may stop and jot or do a cold write as a homework assignment. It's really just saying that there's value primarily and the practice at night of reading and practicing those previously taught skills. And then we started to put in some language, you'll see it's pretty common throughout the board policy, about long-term assignments. Because long-term assignments are important in school. It's important for students to understand how to complete daily short tasks, as well as plan and reinforce learning over a longer period of time. But at the elementary level and the upper grades, those should really be limited in the number and duration, and there should definitely be clear checkpoints from teachers and staff to monitor student progress towards completion. So we're able to help students when they get off track and not wait till the end of a long-term project where a student has now really procrastinated, they're younger, put it off. Maybe it was a frustrating assignment to them. And so we're trying to get them to not come to the end of feeling like they failed at something, but really support them through the process and keep them on track so they can see the value and the benefit, right, of that process praise when you're in a long-term project of completing those chunked out components of a long-term project. And as we look at our middle school minutes, you'll notice we're following that same research that really supports that 10 minutes per grade level of undistracted time. And I think that undistracted time really becomes important here at the middle school level. I have a middle schooler myself, and cell phones, YouTube, TikTok, Minecraft, all of those are outside disengagement opportunities for students when they're completing homework. So when we're talking about 0 to 60, 0 to 70, and 0 to 80 minutes average per night, once again at the middle school level, Monday through Thursday, it really is that time a student is unplugged from that external stimuli and can really focus and be engaged with that practice of skills. And so this is where we really call on our parents as partners to really help us provide that at-home learning space where a child can be free of the TV, be free of their phone, maybe set a timer. And if it's 60 minutes, 20 minutes in a break, 20 minutes in a break, but really helping to reinforce what healthy homework habits look like. At the middle school level, homework should still consist primarily of reading, practice and application of key skills, but really now it's across subject areas. So we were really focusing on homework at the elementary level in English, language arts, math, and writing. Now at middle school, right, as we're having those individual courses throughout our 7-period day, we're also going to see our courses now across subject areas, and it's taking the next step, right? So it's not just practicing of skills, but it's also preparing for future classes and beginning research, because we all know that as our students traverse to the high school and beyond, being able to engage and critically think and research is a really key component to success. And then continuing at the middle school level, homework really should continue to build independent study habits. And so that's where it really is a partnership between classroom, teacher, student, and the family to all three be on the same page and provide the environment inside the classroom and outside of the classroom where students can really be successful and complete their homework in a manageable amount of time, because it also reduces stress, right, for students and that motivation that they need to do nightly homework. Yes, Mr. Forehand.
How does the average staff at the middle school figure out that I'm going to give 10 minutes, I'm going to give 10 minutes, I'm going to give 10 so it doesn't go over 60 minutes, right, in all those 7 periods?
That's a great question. I've got bullet 2 up in this next slide that's going to hopefully give you a little bit more information on that. So there's no exact recipe, right, to that. So with the board policy actually states in that second bullet, with support of administration and staff, teachers should make efforts to coordinate with one another to establish deadlines, due dates for projects and assignments, and tests in an effort to minimize student overextension and create equitable rigor and load within courses. And so our middle schools really began last year using what Challenge Success calls a conflict calendar. And so they're at McCullough, really, I want to shout out to the McCullough team who really took this on early before it was part of the program and really did a great job school-wide piloting for both middle schools last year, a conflict calendar where departments came together and would post when tests would be, when big projects would be. And if you think about 7 periods at middle school, it's really only 4 areas that you would potentially have nightly homework. Rarely do we have homework in our physical education course. Our reading and language arts are a core that are really blocked together, right? And so you have math, science, and social studies. So the teams have come together to manage as grade level teams what those minutes should be in a nightly time frame. And it's really important to remember too that the language is really, it's an average. So there could be nights where a student has no homework in a particular subject, and there could be a night then when they have more homework than typical. So it's also about our teachers working together, posting homework, which we'll talk about in a few slides later, for the week, so students can help learn the skill of time management. And I'll have to also just kudos both of our middle schools. They do an excellent job. Those 6th grade teachers, rock stars, at really teaching students how to use that planner and really map out the entire week, giving time frames to it, checking on it, and even for students struggling, stamping it, starring it, really keeping that extra eye on our incoming middle school students so they can really do a great job at managing their time. And this work really isn't new to our middle school. So it's probably been about 10 years, 8 years maybe. We had a former principal at McCullough Middle School, Mrs. Annie Allen, who really led a charge to do a homework audit and really unveiled a whole bunch of information that really opened the eyes of not only the McCullough staff, but the Oak staff as Mrs. Kaminsky and then Mrs. Allen worked together after that to really work with middle school teachers to bring a lot of this balance forward. And we saw that in the results of our Challenge Success Survey data as well, that students at the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade were indicating much less homework nightly than the students in 9th, 10th, and 11th, and 12th grade. And so as we move to the high school, you'll notice it's no longer broken up by minutes per grade level. So that work that we can do at the middle school level with a conflict calendar, where most of our courses really only exist in 2 levels. So at our middle school level, we have our college prep pathway, and then we have an honors pathway. So where students are really only in 1 of 2 classes for each subject area at the middle school level. About 1,200, 1,100 students on campus. Jump over to Los Alamitos High School, where we're sometimes about 3,200 students, and there can be sometimes, 8 variances of 1 class. And a 9th grader could be in 4 different math classes, 2 different levels of English, a variety of foreign language or science classes. So there really was no way to work a conflict calendar effectively with close to, is it 170, 140 teachers, Dr. Fraser, at the high school? About that. About 140 with that many amount of teachers and that large of departments. So instead, we took a very different approach to make sure we would have an accountability measure at the secondary level, and that is college preparatory courses yielding 0 to 20 minutes per period a night, our honors courses 0 to 25 minutes per period per night, and then our advanced placement courses. Parents this year will be referring to their course catalog that will give them information as to the rigor of the advanced placement course and also estimate about the load and homework, even projects in some of our AP classes that they can expect. Remembering that an advanced placement course is truly a college level course that you're taking in high school. And so research really supports at the secondary level, the 9-12 level, 1.5 to 2.5 hours per night is optimal for high school students, and you're really trying to stay in that zone. So as we look at really, I'd say for most students, 5 academic courses, for some juniors and seniors, 6 as the PE requirement goes away. How can we still keep a balance between student wellness and academic rigor? That academic rigor really is aligned when we say we're igniting unlimited possibilities for our students and families to the dream most of our families have for their children, which is attending a 4-year college, the military, a trade school upon graduation, so making sure that their course or workload is preparing them for whatever's next as well.
Mrs. Reed, and this says Monday through Friday, so that's a shift.
So Monday through Friday will be remaining the same. So our board policy has always had homework that could be assigned Monday through Friday. The shift was really at our TK8 level, where we are not assigning homework on the weekends. Jump to the high school and homework can be assigned Monday through Friday.
Okay, great, thank you.
Absolutely. So at the high school level, long-term project assignments should include clear checkpoints to monitor progress toward completion. So you notice no longer the language of limited in number or duration. So students will be expected that there could be a number of long-term projects going on at one time across their course load, but we're still expecting clear checkpoints and really monitoring progress towards completion. With the support of administration and staff, teachers working together to really minimize that student overextension, but our board policy at the high school level, that work is really embedded in that per period weekly homework. Where the work will become more new at the high school would be looking potentially at large tests or projects that certain departments may put on the calendar at certain times of the year. And so I just want to remind everybody, this is a board policy that was just passed in July. So this is going to be work that's going to be happening over the next 3 years for us to really give teachers access, which we'll talk about in a little bit from now, to professional development about homework, to really educate staff members, students, and parents. So we're going to be putting, I say, a multi-tier approach to the accountability of this policy over the next 3 school years. During the time in high school, it's expected that students will become progressively independent and self-directed in preparation for post-secondary work and/or study. And then teachers are really encouraged to post their weekly homework assignments in advance so that students can time manage their nightly homework load. So I think a great example of this, and it actually came from an English teacher who showed up to one of our all-call staff collaborations, is as an English teacher, I might assign an essay, like a draft essay, and that definitely in honors class doesn't fit right in 25 minutes. Maybe it's a 45-minute activity. So if I'm going to stay within the board policy, I'm going to probably have to use 2 nights, right, of my average to assign that essay. So no homework on Monday night, but on Tuesday writing that draft essay. So as an English teacher, if I'm able to post my homework assignments for the week, students are able then to gauge upon their other courses what their load may be different nights of the week. No assignment should be given during a school break. And so if you'll notice, these 2 bullets really are for all grade levels, TK through 12th grade. So this is new language in our board policy. So a lot of the research really tied an interesting connection between staff wellness and student wellness. And that is, I know I worked on school campuses before being at the district office, and everyone's very excited about the winter recess coming up, right? It's a natural time to celebrate, to get with family and friends, and to kind of recharge. Well, that's the same thing for our students. And the research really indicated that just like staff, students indeed need a recharge time. And so we formalized in our board policy that no assignments would be given during a school break, and that long-term assignments could not be due the first week back from a school break. Mrs. Davidson. It's lovely. We are complete on December 22nd before leaving into the winter recess. Yeah, so that's really great. And that's just a big shout out to our bargaining teams. And so Dr. Frazier has worked extensively to bring our teams together so that we could have that great break at the semester when we have a natural vacation. So teachers and students alike can truly take a break. So it's not that a teacher couldn't assign a project that a student could voluntarily choose to work on during a break. It just can't be due the week we come back, okay? And then homework shall not be assigned during standardized testing for grades 3 through 8 and prior to and during semester finals in grades 9 through 12. The only homework in grades 9 through 12 that can be assigned prior to and during semester finals is preparation tied directly to the semester final or a substitution for the final. So in an English class, perhaps instead of taking a final exam on finals day, an essay could be due, a final essay on a book. And so that would be appropriate. Studying for the exam, a study guide, a review session, those types of activities is what we want to use that load for as students are going into the week before finals and then the week of finals. Some new language that we added to the board policy was also some requirements for teachers so they could be outlined, and then you'll see some requirements for administrators there too, because we have some lofty changes. So how exactly are we going to support staff and educate our families about these changes. And so teachers are really responsible for monitoring homework, time requirements, and feasibility of assignments using student assignments, student feedback, and parent feedback. And so we've really used a great tool that Challenge Success provided, and it's a homework audit. Many of our principals, I know both middle schools, have done this in its activity. They did a staff meeting where teachers bring in homework assignments they've given, and they'll go through an exercise in a rubric to really determine, with the developmental age of their students and the course level that they're teaching, could that homework assignment be done in X amount of minutes, or how long would it take? So it's really just about awareness, talking to students in class, engaging with parents as well. Also, the requirement to record and assess homework assignments in a timely manner. So gradebook entries into Aries should minimally be updated every 2 weeks. We know that research really shows that one of the most important measures for student success is timely feedback. And so students should know as timely as possible if an assessment didn't go well, or if homework will be impacting their grade, and or reteaching that may be necessary from that. Also, teachers should suggest and practice techniques to help increase efficiency, such as how to allocate time wisely, meet deadlines, and develop good study habits for each subject area. And as you get to those older grade levels, right, preparing study habits for subject areas looks very different. Preparing for a chemistry test and preparing for a draft of an English essay, those are very different types, right, of study skills. And so really making sure that teachers can provide time to explicitly talk about proper techniques to manage oneself and to study for tests and or assessments. On the administration side of the house, we need to partner together to really provide access to professional development on homework, including overview of this policy. So something that we did in preparation for the launch of our school year, as I was able to facilitate 3 different meetings with our administrators, so an elementary meeting, a middle school meeting, and a high school meeting, to really collaborate as a team, questions we had about the homework policy, how we were going to talk to staff about it. And so all of our principals did kick off this school year reviewing the policy and changes with all teachers on staff. This policy is not only our district website, but it's also attached to all of our school websites. And prior to back to school night, all of our administrators will also be emailing out to their school community about the homework policy changes and attaching the board policy as well. On the teaching side of the house, we also need to provide access to PD that talks about effective strategies and practices for homework, and provide staff time to collaborate with their grade level teams or departments so that they can look at things like a conflict calendar and look at big areas or times of the year where we have heightened load for students across the campus. Administrators are also going to be responsible for ensuring compliance with this homework policy. I've had a few community members say, I love this policy, but if it's not going well, who will step in and support a family? Well, that would be your on-site school administration team. I would always encourage a family to reach out to their classroom teacher first. Maybe your student's experience is unique, or maybe the teacher's really unaware of the amount of time that a task is taking. And so hearing from a parent really allows them to engage with their students and ask broader questions, since remember, this is our first year of this change with this policy. And then really it's our responsibility to have ongoing discussions with staff regarding effective homework strategies and practices. Just because we pass a board policy doesn't mean the work is done. This really just signifies, right, the launch of the narrative about how we can still support student learning at the highest level while also maintaining student wellness. And then communicate to students and parents or guardians the academic rigor and load involved when enrolling in multiple advanced placement courses. So this is something that's going to be brand new for us this March and April. So after high school registration is done, any student who is enrolled in 2 or more advanced placement courses, parents will receive a letter from Los Alamitos High School sharing the courses that their student is enrolled in, the level of rigor of that advanced placement course, because all advanced placement courses are not equal. Right? If you talk to students and teachers, I'd say there are some better entry-level first-time advanced placement courses, and then there's some highly rigorous advanced placement courses like AP Calculus BC, advanced placement chemistry, right, on that high end of an advanced placement course. Some of our parents with first-time high school kids, they don't really know the nuanced difference between types of advanced placement courses, and we'll put out overall load of the course, nightly homework, number of tests and assessment, long-term projects, so that parents are informed from the beginning about the amount of time their students' class schedule is going to take. I think this is where it really becomes important as a parent to be engaged as your student's a high school student more than ever, and look at the entire schedule for your child. So I know myself, I drop my daughter off for 0 period and I pick her up from practice. So I drop her off at 7:20 in the morning and I pick her up from song practice at 6 p.m. So she's been at school from 7:30 in the morning till 6 p.m. So then I have to think as a parent, she has 5 academic courses she's in. Based on the level of those courses, the time she needs to come home, shower, eat, and get some sleep, and that's if she has no other external commitments. Does that fit into our lifestyle? Is that a healthy schedule for my student? And so I think we need to provide our families, and this is what this requirement is intended to do, with the information they need to make good calls as parents about what they're agreeing to for their child. And so by doing that after registration, parents will have plenty of time, if they have concerns, to meet with their counselor, talk with their student, potentially look at other options in class schedules, or talk about changing after-school commitments to really make sure that they're providing the opportunity for their child to have the courses that best meet their desired outcomes post-high school graduation, but also still fulfill their passions, right? And the other A's that really keep them engaged on campus. And we know that there is not a one-size-fits-all approach here. Every student manages themselves differently, has a different, I'd say, bandwidth for what that they can complete and what's healthy. I have 2 children, and they have a very different bandwidth about what the expectation or tolerance level is once they get home. And so that's where we really rely on parents, right, to be that guide for their child and help us partner with our counselors to make sure we are putting a right schedule together for each Griffin. So I just want to thank the board.
Andre, that was such an excellent overview. I know it's been recorded, but it might be interesting to tell the parents as they start this if they want to listen to that same thing.
Absolutely. We could definitely link this portion.
Very parent-friendly. Yeah, good job.
Thank you, Mr. Forehand.
So every question I had, you answered in the next minute or two. So I cannot even begin to imagine how you pieced together and figured out every single detail. I think my only curiosity is so how are we planning on making sure that this doesn't slip away from some teachers, that you've talked about accountability and collaboration, whatever, so that at some point, 2 months down the line, somebody doesn't say, I'm just going to do it the way I always did it.
And I think that's why we specifically added the section for administrators, where we really outline that it's the onus is on us to provide access to professional development and keep these conversations ongoing. And so I think we have systems and checks and balances, myself being one of those when I'm working with principals working with teachers, parents sharing with us their experience. We can't be in every classroom. Students understanding also, I think, what the expectation is for courses and self-advocating when balance doesn't exist or something is really outside of the norm. And then I think as a educational community, we have to be reflective, right? It's about checking in regularly and looking back. How can we get better? What's working? What do we need to provide more time for? How can we support staff more? I really believe, I feel really lucky to have my job. I sometimes say I'm like the lead learner or lead teacher. I believe wholeheartedly our staff is devoted to every student, and they want the same thing we do. They want to provide academic rigor, and they want their students to be well. So it's really giving them the tools to make that happen as well.
So I thank you, because what makes me believe everything you say is everything that's come before this that you've done, that you always have created accountability and support systems and ongoing training, that a new idea, a new plan is not just a new idea and a new plan that some people will pick up and other people will shelve. And that's what I deeply appreciate, is the forward thinking and problem analysis, your global perspective. So thank you, Andrea.
Thank you, Mrs. Davidson.
Thank you. As a parent, I wish this had happened probably, 25 years ago. And I remember as a parent looking at some of the homework assignments, and I think every parent can say this, where you're just going, this is busy work. If they can do 10 of the math problems, why are you doing 30? If you can't do 10, you're going to reinforce the mistake so horribly hard in your brain, you'll never get rid of it. But I also think that homework is a necessary part of learning. We always talk about the reflection time, and I think for most students, once they get out of school, they probably aren't reflecting about that algebra problem they just had. But later on in the evening, when things are more quiet, for them to look at, oh yeah, I remember that, and this is what we do. We might have some growing pains on this, but I think it is a very bold approach, and because we don't want to lose our academic edge. We would feel horrible about that, but we just need to be more thoughtful. And some students, what would take my one daughter 10 minutes to do would probably take my son 20 minutes to do, because he had to get up and walk around the room and change the radio station and sit down and find his pencil and then start his work. And so as parents, again, we have to realize the distracted amount of time and when they're really working. So I think we're obviously going to want to some more information on this, like towards the end of the year. But thank you for this. Could be a wonderful thing for all of our students in our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Catulli.
Thank you, Mrs. Reed.
I was just going to add, one of the things that we found we have to do is there's a lot of false information out there that we have to break down these myths, that more homework means smarter kids or more rigorous, or they're going to be more academic. And the research just doesn't support that. And that's where we go back and forth, because I think sometimes our parents and teachers, just anybody in our community, thinks that, and so we're trying to break that myth as well, because that's not what the research is showing. That more homework doesn't necessarily yield that you can have rigorous and still be highly focused academically, and self-regulate a bit more what the homework is to create that balance for kids.
Well, Dr. Pulver, you just took words right out of my mouth. So, but I did want to say that I do really appreciate that this is research-based, and that I think that our parents can feel really confident in where this is coming from. Because of that, it's not just arbitrary. It really is based in what is best for the whole child. And we always talk about that is really our goal. I believe in this district is really to educate and care about that whole child. But we are also very driven here as well. So that's wonderful. Two other questions I had. I think I remember, but we do have one AP course for freshmen now. Is that correct?
Well, depending upon the level of freshman, there could be a few different, but
there could be,
the typical one that a freshman would try would be AP Human Geography.
Right. Okay. And then I remember when my son was in high school, and it was all the buzz because they really wanted to have AP courses down at the sophomore level. And there was, so I just was curious about that. I did think I remembered that. And then I would imagine that your department is working strongly with administrators who are working with their teachers to really message this out at upcoming back to school nights.
Yeah, so all principals will be sending obviously they send a save the date and a welcome to their families to back to school night. And this year there'll be an embedded message about the homework policy and a link to the homework policy as well. And I'll take Mr. Forahan's lead and give them a link to a clip. I know Mrs. Bertrado does a great job at segmenting out timeframes on our board meetings that highlight specifics. So bringing attention to this presentation for families who might want to listen to the presentation in its entirety in lieu of reading the 4-page document.
Thank you very much. Any more comments, questions? Thank you very much, Mrs. Reed. Amazing. So we are going to go on to our next presentation, which is the report on the 45-day state budget revision, and Mrs. Galicia. And I believe that is our last presentation, Dr. Pulver.
Well, good evening, esteemed board members, Executive Cabinet, Dr. Pulver, and guests. I'm honored to be here today to present our 45-day budget revision. This presentation has been posted onto our website for public preview as of August 11th. So as you may or may not know, there is an educational requirement that we have to post any budget revisions to public preview and present it to the board if there's any changes to our budget based on the enacted budget from the state. So as you recall, we did bring the proposed budget was presented on June 14th, and the board did take action and approved our budget on June 28th. The governor did sign the annual state budget on June 27th, and 45 days it fell on August 11th, so therefore that was the requirement. There really isn't any action that the board has to take, it's just simply informational on what changed in revenue and expenses. So what really did change? In the unrestricted general fund, we did receive and we welcome the additional revenues that we did receive. Cost of living adjustment remained the same at 6.56%. The LCFF base increased from 6.28% instead of a 3.30%, which for us, that equate to about $2.6 million. ADA calculation for declining enrollment, we did include that in our adopted budget when it originally was a proposal. Now that the budget does include it, it didn't make any change to our budget. It's simply, we did take it into consideration when we adopted the budget. So it allowed for us to use a 3-year average of ADA, which could be the higher of current year or prior year. For us, of course, the 3-year average was the most beneficial. It also allowed for ADA adjustments, which allowed districts to use the 19-20 attendance rate in lieu of the 21-22 rate of attendance, which for us was about 95% for 21-22, and in 19-20 we had a 97%. So of course we're going to use the higher of. The state budget also had an add-on of LCFF funds of $2,813 for each transitional kindergarten. For us, that's approximately $400,000 additional revenue that we're including in our new budget. And then also new to the state budget was the transportation funding, which is about 60% of our prior year expected expenditures. For us, that equates to about $200,000 in addition. The transportation guidelines does include that we bring to the board a plan that details how we are prioritizing transportation to TK through 6 and our low-income students. And we are very proud to say that this year we are providing free transportation for all of our EL and foster students and free and reduced students. In the restricted side, we also saw quite significant increases in funding. As you recall, when I presented the budget in June, these were discretionary allocations, and we still didn't know how those fundings were going to be allocated to each district. So now we have a little bit more information. The funding could change. It could go up. It could be a little bit less. But for now, the Learning Recovery Block Grant is estimated to be about $3.8 million. And that grant is focused on learning recovery from the pandemic, including tutoring, lowering staff ratios, and increasing instructional time. In addition to that, there is also an additional discretionary block grant for art, music, and instructional materials, which is about $5.8 million. This grant is mainly aligned with, it's allowing us to align professional development and instructional materials, and to include more diverse book collections, culturally relevant text. And then also it allows us to purchase more COVID-19 pandemic-related supplies, and it also gives us the flexibility to use it for retirement CalPERS and STIRS liability, as well as any health and welfare cost increases. In addition to this, we also received an allocation for the Expanded Learning Opportunity Program. This is going to be an ongoing funding for us. It's not a one-time, and for us it's about $1.6 million. This fund is geared towards, if we are less than 75% UPP, so of course we are, which means we have to provide 50% of services to our unduplicated pupil counts. And we're still working on developing that plan. This year, we are making every effort to provide those services to our unduplicated pupil count this year, but it will be more robust and effective next year, beginning in 22-23, where it will be audited as well. Yes, Ms. Catilli.
Thank you. I just actually read it and answered my own question. It was the first item, the Learning Recovery Block Grant, and I know it's a one-time money, but do we have a specific length of time we have to spend it in?
We do. I believe, I'm not 100% sure, but I think we have up into 2027 or 28, if I remember correctly. So they gave us quite a bit of time to spend it.
Quite a bit of time. Okay, thank you.
Yes. And then in addition to the ELOPE grant, we also are receiving an increase in our special education base grant. It currently is at $715 per pupil, and it's now $820 per pupil. So that's about an additional $600,000 increase for special education ongoing. So that's wonderful news. So how does these additional fundings affect our multi-year projections? So as you know, we are projecting the revenue, but we still don't have how we're going to spend this new money right away, right? So we are assuming some additional expenditures as we go on throughout the year. So our expenditures have increased slightly. We didn't include all the new revenue in 1 year because we are anticipating to spend them throughout the 3 years. We did increase our reserve for economic uncertainties because as we increase our expenditures, the 3% does increase. And then our board approved committed funds, we increased them slightly, about $1 million every year, simply because we still don't know how we're going to spend those funds. And because we are still tied to that 10% requirement, we have to maintain that reserve percentage for total expenditures, including our Fund 17, to be less than 10%. So as you can see, we still project an ending fund balance percentage of 5.29% in 22-23, 4.86. But overall, once we add the Fund 17 reserve for special reserve, we're still at the less than 10%. And then in the restricted side, the bulk of our one-time funds are in the restricted side. So as you can see, our revenues have increased drastically in 22-23. Our expenditures have also increased. We're not anticipating spending all of it in this current fiscal year, so we've kind of added a few expenditures in the 23-24 fiscal year as well as 24-25. Therefore, you will see a surplus deficit spending in the restricted side because we are spending down that one-time funds in the 3 years. So what are next steps? In September, I believe September 6th, we will be bringing forward our unaudited actuals once we finalize closing the books. And then these revisions will be reflected and submitted to the state, as well as any other revisions that we may have, any changes in staffing, any changes that we know of, and that we have dialed down any plans for these one-time funds. They will be included more officially when we bring our unaudited actuals and revised budget for board approval. And then in September, we will bring forward our first interim once again, once we have more detailed information about the one-time funds or any unknown expenditures. And then in March of 2023, we will be bringing our second interim report. And that's all I have. If there's any questions? Yes. Ms. Davison?
So this question, goes back to the major funding provisions where it's continued. I just have a curiosity about where it says establishes the one-time arts, music, instructional material discretionary block grant, $5.8 million. So I get about the professional development instructional material, but if this is titled arts, music, and instructional material, how is it they let us buy COVID-19 pandemic supplies and paying retirement and healthcare costs?
Very good question. And I think that's the reason why they added that discretionary part of it, because it does allow us to, it really has a lot of flexibility. It allows us for arts, music, staff development, instructional materials, but it also adds in that COVID related, because originally these two funding sources were going to be discretionary, which we thought was going to be in the general fund, which would give the districts flexibility to use it however they want to use it. Now, putting it on the restricted side, it gives us a little bit more restrictions, but at the same time, it adds that little flexibility in that particular arts, music, and discretionary block grant.
Thank you.
I think sometimes the titles the state uses tries to acknowledge some of the advocacy that they've received, but then at the same time gives almost full discretion for anything. So the title is a little bit misleading, but it is on one-time funds, so it makes it hard to fund personnel for art or music through something like that, since it's not ongoing.
Right. It makes it hard to create a new program when you don't feel it can be an ongoing program.
Right, but it can help with materials. It can help with, let's say we were to do an elementary music program down the road or something, it could help us with those instrument purchases, et cetera, that we would want to be able to do. So
Could you do something like when we've talked before about the sound system and the PAC?
yes,
yes.
yep, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Sound systems, yes. Perhaps perhaps the board, if we wanted a video board above the PAC, because that marquee is pretty bad and needs to be replaced, because that is our arts center. So yeah, there is a lot of discretion.
That is correct.
And that's good use of one-time funds.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
If there's no further questions, we're going to move on to our consent part of our calendar. We do have a pull of item E. So I am looking for a motion of consent item A through D and F through AJ. Consent, just so people understand, our consent calendar are items that are natural in nature to the business of the board. And so we don't have to take all of them. We don't have to take them individually. We can take them all together as one. So I believe I have a first and I have a second. So I'll call for a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes 4-0. We will now look at item 9E, and this is the approval of an overnight extended field trip for Los Alamitos school cross-country varsity and senior teammates, which I really love, to San Diego. And Mrs. Reed, do you just want to explain a little bit about the revision?
Yeah, so the revision is actually in the title that was posted on the agenda. So all of the information of the key details of tonight's item is accurate. However, there was a mistyping in the title. It has the wrong year, 23, when it really should be 2022. Thank you, Madam President.
I'll move approval.
So I have movement approval. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes 4-0. Okay, we will move on to our action items. And the first item that we have is the adoption of our 2022-2023 district priority goals. And I'm going to hand it over to Dr. Pulver, but I'm going to say that we really do look at our goals every year. And that's one of the things that the board does in the summer. And I will let Dr. Pulver take it from there.
Thank you, Madam President. Yes, that is one of the things that we do each summer typically is come together to really take a look at our goals. How did we accomplish them based upon the information we have at that time? And then how do we set the vision and the priorities for the upcoming school year? And what I love about this board is that we're not constantly changing. So providing some stability and trying to not having to constantly reinvent so that we can really stay focused. Sometimes I think we use that saying, keep the main thing the main thing. And so I think that gives some stability and it gives some predictability for all of us about really what is important, how we can relegate the priorities, because if you just look at the homework policy that Mrs. Reed brought forward, there's a ton of goals and there's a ton of things within that. But really, how do we crystallize what are our main priorities? And so as you'll learn this evening, we have 5, and they did not change dramatically from the previous year, but we always fine tune and also try to be responsive to some of the things that we see coming forward. And so our first goal continues to be about, and these are 5 goals. I'm just putting them as the way they're ordered on paper, but it's really about continuing to passionately pursue academic excellence from all students by providing unparalleled preparation for college and career success. And then we try to operationalize that and define that a bit more, because even that can be a bit lofty. And so some of these things you'll see complement one another when we take a look at our LCAP study at the end of each year. But a lot of it really centers around exemplary instruction, really centers around high qualified staff who are well trained in our signature instructional practices and receive ongoing support, et cetera. And then providing targeted intervention supports. How do we meet the needs of students based upon multiple assessments? We're using data to help guide how to best intervene for students in particular areas to support the academic and the social emotional success. You know, one of the things I think we realize more and more, and research continues to support this, is that social emotional learning cannot be a separate thing. We can't educate our students and provide quality rigor in academic instruction if our kids aren't in a safe learning environment, if they're not in the mental state to really access their learning. And so they're not these separate concepts, that they really have to be weaved and integrated into that. And so as we look to ensure that every student meets, and these are lofty goals, but to ensure that our students meet or exceed grade level content standards, the area that we also wanted to add in, and the change to this year is in that second bullet, engages in learning that promotes student wellness and academic rigor. So while we have a goal in goal 2 that talks about wellness and a thriving culture, et cetera, which I'll talk about later, we also know it can't be separated from our passionate pursuit of academic rigor, both the social emotional wellness of students as well as the rigor. And you saw that tonight again in the presentation with homework, where we're balancing our rigor with wellness, and that they really do complement and are integrated. And then, of course, no changes in the remaining other bullets of having this goal to ensure all of our students at least meet the A through G requirements, to just open more doors for them, whether they choose to go down that pathway or not, to complete some type of CTE or dual enrollment course, which is a course through our community college with Cypress College, or an advanced placement course, because we do know that we're preparing our kids for beyond death, and that's why it's about that college and career readiness. And then really that last bullet is just a skill set that they need, our students, to be able to work in a competitive global society of having foundational schools in technology and STEAM. And the second goal, I think one of the things that was paramount in all of our minds is we've always talked about school safety. We've always had a goal on safety. And we moved a little bit to talk about wellness and providing a safe culture learning environment. But with Uvalde and more school shootings occurring, we also wanted to recenter ourselves on the word safe as well. Safe has a lot of operational definitions, but it's the physical safety as well. Do we have deterrence within our campuses, et cetera, to prevent various measures of acts of potential violence? And so moving where we pivoted the word safe, so creating a thriving and safe culture that ensures a caring, inclusive, equitable, and student-centered environment. And the top bullet there was one of the newer ones that we put back together. And this is stuff that we have been working on, but we also know all of you have been hearing from members of the community that this has been really a critical need. And so we wanted to focus that to acknowledge that this is going to be ongoing focus for our work and at the forefront. And so if it's going to be that pivotal, we wanted to put it, delineate it within our goals. So to provide safe, secure facilities, implement multi-layered interventions and deterrence to ensure the physical, social, and emotional safety of our students and staff. So that's the area that we tweaked a little bit more there. Provide mental health services to students and foster student and staff wellness. As you know, we've increased our mental health counselors. Last year we doubled it, and we added even more this year as well. And then on top of that, we added that every school site has at least one full-time school psychologist, which was an addition that we made late in the year for the start of this school year, which will really have lots of opportunities to support our kids and our staff throughout the year. Connectedness is, I think some of you had said earlier, not every kid comes to school because they just can't wait for biology or algebra. It's often that they're connected in something else as well. And so some of the kids we probably worry about the most who that need even more of our time and attention are students who just come to school and go home, that aren't involved in something else, whether it's academics, athletics, activities, the arts, or it could be through their church youth group or through community service, some type of thing outside, as long as they're connected, because they're typically connected to more kids and more caring adults who are helping support them. And then build a positive and safe school community based upon appreciation of diversity, equity, and inclusion. Goal 3, 4, and 5 have not changed. They're really the big lofty goals. There's not a lot of bullets underneath them because, again, our goal is to try to delineate what's the most important on one page. Otherwise, this could just be a 25-page, 30-page document, and then no one reads it. And so this really puts it to the forefront. So fostering collaborative relationships and partnerships with our families, our students and staff and the community, provide high-quality facilities to meet the educational and instructional needs of students and our staff, because our staff, this is their working environment, our students, this is their learning environment. And then our 5th goal is to continually to manage and allocate financial resources to maximize our students' educational experiences. And as we did last year, I think it's always important for us to really delineate some of our core values. And so our core value, we have a core value at our core. Particularly sometimes this is important when things occur, that we center ourselves, okay, what do we really value? And we value a culture of kindness, where everyone is treated with dignity, we respect individuals, and we try to seek to understand different points of view, which is critical to us. One person's point of view is not more important than the other. That we hold ourselves responsible to maintain a clear focus on our goals and serving the needs of our students and families, that we do need to continue to focus on equity and meeting the needs of all students. We need to make sure that school works for all kids, not just some kids. And so we had to take a look at that lens through our systems and structures and opportunities that promote success. We value our similarities and differences, and that really we have a commitment. I think that's what this is ongoing about LoSal, is that we are committed to the student success, where students, parents, staff, and the community are supported through collaboration, reflection, and a focus on continuous improvement. So that wraps up our board priority goals, and look forward to all of you moving forward with approval.
Thank you, Dr. Pulver. Do I have a motion? Is there discussion?
I have to second it first.
Oh, thank you.
Second.
Is there discussion?
I just want to reiterate what Dr. Pulver said, because being on the board for an extended period of time, I remember when it was several pages long, and I don't think it's good to have that many goals specifically listed. And they do shift at different times. And I was just looking at the ones where you didn't really change or add anything to it, was the high quality facilities. We could have had 10 pages on what we expected to do with the bond money that we passed. But it's better to make them broader and more than detailed. We don't, because the details may change. So I'm always I'm proud of these, because we are in the business of educating children, and that is our first goal, and that's our priority. But we kind of lay out how we want to do business and how we want to have this done. So good job.
Thank you, Mrs. Catulli. Any other comments? I'll call for the vote then. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes 4-0. We are now moving on to the approval of the 2022-2023 Los Alamitos Unified School District Board of Education Governance Handbook. Dr. Pulver.
Thank you, Madam President. Again, during our summer workshop, we review our goals, and we also spend time as the board, along with myself. We have brought in a facilitator to work with us as well to take a look at how we're going to govern, and so as a governance team. And so the protocols and the procedures are really just the way that we are going to interact with each other, recognizing that you're a board of 5. And so how do we give direction at times to a superintendent, and how do we respond to the public as well?
Thank you. I will now call for a motion. Moved and seconded. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes 4-0. Approval of the first reading of a revised budget a revised board policy on conflict of employment. Mrs. Reed.
Thank you so much, President Hill. Tonight, we're bringing forward the first reading of a board policy. So I want to talk a little bit about some of the changes to the existing policy. So the policy has always existed and had a large section that dealt with the conflict of employment for outside employment, not hindering your during the day professional duties. And it also previously contained a section on tutoring, which clearly outlined that certificated employees cannot receive money to tutor students that are currently enrolled in the courses that they teach. And so we've expanded this board policy to now include coaches with tutors so that coaches could not coach current players for money. In addition, we've also added a section on student placement, which outlines that a certificated employee shall not have their own child or children residing in their household placed in a grade-bearing class when they're the teacher of record. So that a class where a student is receiving a grade A through F, employee would not have their own child in their own section unless, and we have two stipulations in this board policy. One, the certificated employee is the only teacher of record for that course. So an example could be choir. If I'm a choir teacher and my child attends my school, there may not be another option but to be in the choir. Or second, the student's schedule cannot be executed without the placement in that course. So an example of that may be Mrs. Hill and I both teach English 1, and I teach it 4 sections and she only teaches it 1, but that 1 section happens to be when ASB is happening, and this student also has ASB. So we won't hinder a student's opportunities to have their desired courses attained if that means also placing them in a parent or a guardian who they live in their household's course. And so we're bringing this forward as a first reading this evening.
Thank you for that explanation, Mrs. Reed. Do I have a motion? Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion? I will call for a vote then. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes 4-0. Thank you, Mrs. Reed, and thank you for making those just adjustments. But I think it's a lot of things that we hear from our community, and I do really appreciate that. The approval of resolution 2022 through 2023 for the instructional material realignment program for grades TK through 12. Mrs. Reed.
Thank you, President Hill. I am here tonight to share that we are compliant with Ed Code 60119 and are offering sufficient textbooks and instructional materials to all students enrolled in grades TK through 12. All students have access to materials that are consistent with the current content cycle of curriculum framework adopted by the state board. We plan to engage in an instructional materials evaluation process to support K-5 elementary science standards this school year.
Do I have a motion?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? We have materials for our students. It's a good thing. All those in favor?
It's a roll call.
Aye.
It's a roll call.
Thank you.
Ms. Catulli.
Aye.
Mrs. Hill.
Aye.
Mr. Forehand. Mrs. Davidson.
Passes 4-0. Thank you very much. Thank you, Vice President Foreham, for that heads up. Approval of textbooks. Mrs. Reed.
Thank you, President Hill. Tonight we bring forward Ideas and Argument by Bedford Freeman and Worth Publishers to be approved for use at Los Alamitos High School in our AP language class. This has been on community preview for the past 30 days in Education Services.
Wonderful. Do I have a motion? A second? Discussion?
I would like to thank Mrs. Reed for this book. I think it is one of the most important things that anyone can be taught is to think. And in order to think, you have to look at things from more than one perspective. And I always think, don't read it the first one on the internet, that you're not going to get your best information there. But this, I just think the book is interesting, and I think it's going to be kind of inspiring to our students. They have different, I just thought the book was really good, and they had different scenarios, things that were not of highly serious nature. But you need to learn to listen to people and try to extrapolate what they're saying, how it relates to you, whether you agree or disagree, and to understand where those people are coming from. So I think this is a book everybody should have. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I will pass that on to the English department at Los Alamitos High School, as they're the ones who sifted through multiple versions of the textbook and proposed this recommendation.
Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. It's been moved. It's been seconded. We've had discussion, and it's not a roll call. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes 4-0. We're now moving on to the approval of supplemental materials. Mrs. Reed.
Thank you, President Hill. We're bringing forward 3 for approval tonight. Trilogy Las Apariencias for our Spanish 4 Comp Lit class at Los Alamitos High School, and Foundations for Superior Performance, Warm-Ups and Techniques for Band, as well as Habits of a Successful String Musician by Christopher Selby, Scott Rush, and Rich Moon for our orchestra and band periods at Los Alamitos High School. All 3 supplemental materials have been on public preview for the past 30 days in Education Services.
Thank you. Do I have a motion? A second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes 4-0. We are now moving on to the acceptance of bids of 2022-5 and approval of an agreement with Keystone Builders for the building of the Wellness Center or Well Space at the Los Alamitos High School. Mrs. Galicia.
Thank you, Madam President. We are bringing forward the most responsible and lowest bidder for the Wellness Center, which is called Keystone.
Very exciting. Do I have a motion? Do I have a second?
I'll definitely second it.
Discussion?
Yay. I just like to say thank you. And the middle schools, the 2 well spaces, if you talk to the principals, are spilling over at many points during the day. And this is going to be so wonderful. And to the people who are helping build the garden in front of it, we're deeply appreciative of this opportunity to give these kids a special place on campus. So thank you. Yeah.
And I just want to remind the board and the community, this has been a big initiative that LAIF has been wanting. When you talked about LAIF community partners in your board president's report, this was the signature fundraiser event that they had at the February fundraising King of Hearts, Queen of Hearts campaign, where they raised over $170,000 to support this work. The bill is a little bit more than that, but this is something as well that we are committed to doing. So their generosity and support will really make this a viable option for our students and legacy really for our future Griffins as well.
Thank you, Dr. Pulver. And I was going to second that. I know it's okay though. It's better than less. So just really thank LAIF and all that donated. And it was, I remember at the fundraiser, it was really very emotional for them and for the executive director. This work is really important for the mental health of our students. So we are very appreciative. So I will now call for a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? 0. Passes 4-0. Excellent. Time to get to work. The next one is approval of revised job description for information specialist, system specialist 2. And Dr. Fraser, you've been very quiet this evening.
Thank you, Madam President. We're bringing forward this job description that was approved by the Personnel Commission in our last PC meeting. Really just wanted to look and make adjustments to the qualifications and education portion of the job description to really elicit a more robust pool of candidates that are qualified for that position.
Excellent. Thank you. Do I have a motion? A second? Any discussion? I just really want to say I do really appreciate the Personnel Commission and all the work that they do, and really helping us to be able to garner the best candidates that we can for our district. So all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes 4-0. We are now moving on to the approval of warrants. Warrants are the checkbook of the district, and there were 60 pages.
There were.
This past time.
Some of the pages were duplicated. Yes. And all I could say is that I was paying close enough attention that I saw they were duplicated.
That's pretty impressive. So
I think it was just your bifocals.
It could be. No, I even went back and checked, but that's okay.
So the board has the responsibility of looking at all the bills and checks that the district pays. As we said, that's 60 pages, and it's really tiny type. And if we have any questions about any of them, we are given the answers to those. We ask them ahead of time. So do I have a motion to approve the warrants?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes 4-0. We are now moving it's all about money in this section. So we are now moving on to the acceptance of donations. And this is a wonderful opportunity for us to thank the community for all of the donations that they entrust us with. And there was a nice $2,000 I just noticed from Rensselaer Beach. Thank you very much for that. So we are, our fiscal year begins July 1st. So far this year, to date, we have $68,300.55. Do I have a motion?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any other discussion?
Thank you.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes 4-0. We are now moving on to the our classified, certificated, and administrative personnel reports. Those will all be under one vote. And Dr. Frazier.
Thank you, Madam President. I do want to take a quick moment and just thank our elementary school principals and Mrs. Reed. We had some late hires that we needed to take care of, and they worked late and were very flexible with their schedules. And so we really appreciate the work that they did because we feel like we hired some really great teachers. So with that, I'm moving forward the personnel reports as presented.
Thank you. Do I have a motion and a second? So Dr. Frazier, this means we're fully staffed? Pretty close?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes 4-0. We are now moving on to the acknowledgement of receipt of a claim dated July 27th, 2022 and received July 7th, 2022 and submitted by DF on behalf of CF and reject claim in compliance with Government Code Section 911-15 and 94. And Mrs. Galicia.
Thank you, Madam President. As you mentioned, based on Government Code 911, we are required to acknowledge the receipt of this claim, but then based on our counsel and legal, we have to reject it at this time.
Thank you.
So
Moved. Seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Passes 4-0. We have a similar receipt of a claim on submitted by Bella, I don't know, Hamdesh Esquire on behalf of AF, and we are and reject the claim in compliance with Government Code Section 911-15 and 945. Mrs. Galicia.
Same situation. We are requesting acknowledgement and rejection of the claim.
Thank you. Do I have a motion? Second. Although no further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Passes 4-0. Excellent. Excellent work, team. I do believe that we are going to go back into closed session before we adjourn. So we will close the open part of our meeting and at 7:57 and go back into closed session. Thank you.